Okay, guys, let's start by looking at the very first quizzes from week 6, and let's maybe talk about what are some questions that we might have wrong, and you want to find out like the answer and the explanation. So I'm going to give you feedback on some of the questions from week 6 all the way to week 8. Okay, that way you can understand, because this is very important. Those are exactly the same questions that you are going to get on the AP exam. Okay, so let's start with the first question. It says, error occurs when a semicolon is missing at the end of a statement. Now, this is a syntax error, okay? Every time that we have problems with semicolons, or you're using some other words in your code that should be reserved words, these are syntax errors. Or if you use a semicolon after creating a for loop, it's very common, very, very common that sometimes when you create a for loop, let's say we create a for loop to I less than, 100. Very simple for loop like this, we put a semicolon. This will generate a syntax error, okay? And it will also generate that the loop only does this once, okay? So it's very important that we don't do this and we create our code in this section, okay? So always keep that in mind. Those are syntax errors. Okay, you have it with the for loops and while loops, and all your if statements should never contain after the condition a semicolon. Okay, now let's go to question number 2. On question number 2, it says you can reduce the number of logic errors in a program by rereading code carefully, or actually is dust checking. Many of you chose proofreading, and it's a little bit different. When you dust check, you have to go line by line, and each code, just checking that each code executes correctly. Okay, not only proofreading. You want to run the code in your mind and see where it takes you. Okay, sometimes it takes you to other methods. Okay, and sometimes it takes you to the next line of code. So it's important to do dust checking. In question number 3, it says error occurs when the computer is instructed to divide by 0. Now, dividing by 0, the computer will not know that this is an error until it reaches that point. That's why it's called a runtime error. He will run every line of code, okay, and when he reaches that division by 0, he is going to find a runtime error. So he won't show a syntax error on your IDE. You won't have any errors until you actually compile the code. When he gets to that line, it will find a runtime error. Okay, for question number 4, we have to use the method successfully, you must know, okay, what type of value it returns. Yes. Its name. Yes. The number and type of parameter it expects. Yes. So everything that it's here, it's all the above. Okay? And when you create a method, let's create a method like public static void, okay? And let's call it calc. Okay? Now this method has a couple of things that you must understand. First, void means it does not return anything. Okay? So he's going to come here and he will develop all the lines of code here, and he's not returning anything. Okay? And this method does not have any parameters. Okay? So there are some methods that return things and it has parameters. Let's say we use public static int calc, and the parameters that we need are int a and int b. So we need 2 integer numbers to develop this method. And at the end, I need to return an integer. If I do not return the integer in the method, well, it's not going to work. This word means that after the method is completed, he must return something, okay? And these are the parameters. So it has a name, which is calc. It has some parameters, and it returns something. So these are very important aspects of methods. Something that, we're going to still work on methods a lot, not only static methods. We will start after quarter 2 ends, we're going to start working on how classes work and how to create different classes in Java. Okay? Now, question number 5, it says, errors are also called bugs. Yes, and these are logic errors. These are errors created by the programmers, okay? It's when you do not establish the loop as required, or you have an error in your mathematical expression and you're not getting the right result. The computer will never know that there's a problem, but you won't get the correct answer. So these are logic errors, things that the programmers have to deal with. And for me, those are the most difficult to find, because it might be adding or subtracting in one line of code, and it just creates a big problem in the whole program. Okay, so this is a week 6 quiz. Okay, that way you understand a little bit more what I'm talking about. Okay, now let's look at quiz number 7, and this is very interesting because we need to look at a couple of things in arithmetic expressions and kind of like what happens when you cast, okay, which is very tricky, and some of the questions on the AP exam are very tricky. The very first question says, which of the following recommendations for testing software is not a good advice? Well, actually all of these are good advice of checking programs. It's checking portions of your program, that would be the B. If possible, use automated testing procedures or read test data from files. You will notice that sometimes when we import data, it's easier to grab big databases with a lot of information that we can test our programs with. This is really important. Design test data that exercises as many different paths. You try that the program goes in different paths. If it has to go into different conditions, you want to make it go into different conditions and figure out if it's actually reaching that code. Okay, so basically test the boundaries of the program conditionals and see if your loops actually get to the number of times or iterations that you want. Check if the if statement actually takes you there, or in case you have a break in your loops, that if it actually goes out. So there are many things you can do to debug your software and test it. But one thing that you will never be capable of doing is test the program with all possible values. It is impossible, because there are infinite input values. Okay, so this one is very, very simple and very clear. For question number 2, it says, given the declarations P5 and Q3. Now, both of these are integer numbers, okay? It is very important that you understand this. And every time that you operate or add or divide or multiply integer numbers, the result will be an integer number, okay? So it will kind of like truncate whatever decimal place it is. With that said, in option number 1, you have double P, okay? So you would have, and let's try to look at this a little bit closer, okay? You have double P, you cast the P, okay? And then you have times double Q, okay, divided 2. Now in this case, double P is casted into a double, okay? So this will be a double. So this is actually 5.0 times the q is also casted into a double. So q is 3. So this is 3.0 divided 2. Now this will be a double, okay? Because an operation between a double and an integer will give you a double, okay? And an operation between doubles will give you a double. So this would be actually the only case that you get 7.5, okay? Because all of the numbers are doubles. In case number 2, in option number 2, when you operate q divided 2, this is going to be an integer number, okay? So this is just an integer number. So what you're getting is 3 divided 2, which is 1. You're not getting the 1.5. So you're getting 1, you're getting 1.0 times 5.0. This is not going to work, okay? And in this case, all this operation is just an integer, okay? This would be 5 times 3, which is 15, divided 2 is 7. And why is it 7? Because these are not doubles. So it will be 7, and the answer will be 7.0, okay? It's not the one that we're looking for. That's why number 1 only is the correct answer. For question number 3, what is the output of the following segment? This is very important, okay? 5 times 4 divided 2. See if we can do it again. Sorry if you hear like the squeaking of my pencil, but it's very close to the microphone. So we have 5 times 4 divided 2. Okay? And then we have minus 5 divided 2 times 4. Okay? Now, as you can see, all of these are integer numbers. Okay? So 5 times 4 is 20 divided 2. This is 10 minus 5 divided 2. Okay? This is not 2.5. This is actually 2 times 4 equals 8. Okay? That's why you get 2.0, because this is saved into a double. Okay? So this would be the answer. Now in question number 4, it says, assume the following declarations have been made. Now, look at this. You have a string s and a string and the int n. Okay? It says, assume that s has a value world and n is 6. What are the values of s and n after the call changer sn is made? Guys, it's very important that you understand how the method works. This method does not return anything. All the operations inside this method are private to this method. Okay? It will work like, it will probably work with x and will work with y, but s and n will always be the same. Okay? You can call this method, but s and n will never change. That is why s equals world and n equals 6. If this method returned something and it modified s and n, it would be completely different. Okay? So you see, there are many tricky questions in those AP exams. Okay? It's very important that you understand if the method returns something or doesn't, or if it's an infinite loop. Okay? So be aware of those things. In question number 5, it says go figure. Now this is another example of what we've been doing with casting and using integer values. Remember that n, okay, n remainder equals 7. It's just, let me show you. So n remainder equals 7. This is just n equals n remainder 7. Okay? This is the extended version. Remember, we can have an extended version of arithmetics. Okay? So it says, go figure. So we're going to do it with number 12. Go figure 12. Okay? So n will be 12. So it would be 12 remainder 7. Okay? We have 12 remainder 7, which is 5. Okay? This is the remainder. In case you don't understand, This is because if I divide this, I can say 7, and this is 5. This is the remainder, okay? This is the number that you're going to get. This is the remainder. It's not a division. This is the remainder. So, this is 5, okay? And I need to put it into n, okay? So n is equal to 5. But then I say return 12 divided n. So I would do 12 divided 5. Okay? Now 12 divided 5, since we're talking about two integer numbers, this is going to be 2. Okay? But since it is cast to a double, this is 2.0. Okay? That is why it's not 2.4. Okay? And of course, 12, or our n, never changes. So go figure n will give us the 2. And then the n, which is this n over here, never changes because I never modified that n. So you can go to a method and go back and always make sure that those return values are either modified or not. Okay? That is a very important question for this. Okay, so that would be quiz number 7. I hope all this feedback helps you a lot. Okay, quiz 8 is very, very interesting, and it's because we continue working with how int values and double values are considered in Java, and we are also adding for loops and traces for loops. And when I have a loop, I really like to trace each iteration and each call in order to get the right answer, because variables are going to be updated all the time. So it's important that you actually grab a piece of paper and pencil and trace each iteration. Now, looking at the first one, we have x equals 7 and y equals 3. Now this condition, it's an AND, okay? So you have to meet both conditions in order to work. X is less than 10, yes, this is true, but y is not less than 0. This is false. So this is not going to happen. You're not going to multiply x times y. And on the other hand, you are going to get the value of x divided y. Now, x divided y, 7 divided 3, we are talking about integers, right? So 7 divided 3 is 2, okay? Remember, if you operate between integers, you're getting an integer number. So the value is 2. This is why you get an integer value. That one was very easy. Now for the second one, and here, I don't know, I'm going to make a screenshot of this portion so we can actually see it better. Okay? And I'm going to copy this. See if I can copy this. Sorry. Into our notepad here. Okay? And let's see if we can decipher what this is. Guys, you can just skip this part. Like if you really understand all these methods, it's important that you just skip to other questions that you think that are more difficult. Okay? So it says consider the following method. You have a method swap. First thing you gotta notice is that this returns an integer number. Okay? It will return an integer number. This is why we have the return here. Okay? And it says what are the values of the variables a, b, and c after the following statements are executed. Okay? This is what you execute. A, b, and c. Now you return, look, this only returns a number. So c is the only one that is going to be held after the swap method is called. A and b are exactly the same. So a is going to be equal to 2 and b is going to be equal to 5. They do not change. These variables are not modified. C is the one that changes. Okay? Now, let's say we have 2 and we have 5, okay? So 2 is less than 5, so it will enter the if statement. Now, b, which is 5, is equal to 2. So the new b is going to be equal to 2, okay? Then a, which is 2 already, is going to be equal to b. But b is also 2. So we are just taking this number and we're putting them there. Okay? So both variables are 2. Okay? This one went to this one, and this one updated, so this one is 2 now, and this one will go to this one. Okay? Now 2 minus 2 is equal to 0. So the answer for this will be A2, B5, and of course C, which is the one returned, is 0. Okay? So you have to be careful with this. It's not very difficult, but you have to be careful of what it returns. Question number 3, it's very simple. Every time that you get a number like this, after the product, look, the product of two numbers, remember that if you multiply two numbers, the only way you can get a negative number is because one of the numbers is negative. Okay? In this case, the product of 25. Here we're just seeing that we're multiplying 25 times the product recursively of 23 and so on and so forth. So that will never be an integer number, a negative integer. Okay? So the only case that this happens is because the integer arithmetic overflow. Remember that, I'm going to write it over here. Integers, okay? Integers can hold 8 bytes, okay? And this will be 2 to the power of 32, okay? Which is a huge number, okay? But after this number, okay, or after 2 to the 32 plus 1, after this number you will get an overflow, okay? So it's important that, and this is the error that shows, okay? There is a way to store really big numbers, and it's using a class called, and this is something that we're not going to learn in our course, but you want to look at it on the Java API, which is big integers, okay? With a class of big integers, you can actually get any number until your computer memory runs out. Okay? So this is, in question number 4, what is the output of the program segment below? Okay? Now, these type of loops I like to trace. I really like to trace because otherwise I'm not going to get the correct answer. Okay? So I'm going to do it again. I'm going to use my sniping tool. I'm going to get the question. Okay? And I'm going to go over here and see if I can make a new one. There we go. So, what is the output of the program segment below? It says num is equal to 5, okay? And while number is greater than 0, then do this. Okay? So we have 5. 5 is greater than 0, so it will enter my first time. Okay? This is the first time that I'm going to do this iteration. So number 1. So 5, which is num, is equal to num minus 2. So it will be 5 minus 2. And this will be 3. Okay? So this is num right now. 3 is still greater than 0. So in my second iteration, num will be num, which is 3, minus 2, okay, will be equal to 1. Right? And 1 is still greater than 0. So in my third iteration, num is going to be equal to 1 minus 2, right? Which is equal to minus 1. Now minus 1 is not greater than 0. So this condition is not met, and I need to return this value. Okay? So this it's a method that you should use every time that you want to trace trace the loops. If it's a while loop or a for loop. Always know what is the new variable and if it's updated, okay? So in this case, we have number minus 1, okay? And for the last question, and this is something that you can actually get right away, this means all the multiples of 4, all the numbers multiples of 4 between 1 and 100. So this will actually start printing after the number 4. So it will start with the number 4. So here we have a problem because it's only until 25. So it will only print 1 through 25. So this is not the one that we need. Number 2, this goes from 1 to 100, k plus 4. This will actually show 1, 4, 8, and so on. But 1 is not a multiple of 4, so this one doesn't work. This one, from 1 to k less or equal than 100 plus plus, and only print out k remainder 4. Give me a second. Okay, so as I was saying, so k remainder 4. So it will always print out something. It will give you 100 different numbers, zeros, and then whatever is the remainder of each number. Let's say 6 divided 4 is remainder 2, so it will print the 2. And we only need to print out if it's a multiple of 4. Okay? In this case, we have the same problem. We're multiplying times k, so this one is also discarded. Okay? Now this one, it starts in 4, and that's what we need. It's very similar to B without the 1. We needed to modify this one to 4, and you will get all the numbers by 4. If you add 4, and you will get 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, and so on and so forth. Okay? So this is the one that it's needed. So it's very important that you actually you have a big picture of the problem. Sometimes you're not going to have enough time to trace each of these loops, okay? You just need to be careful and see which one fits better, okay, of what you need in the problem. So that is the feedback for quizzes 6, 7, 8. I hope it helps you, because the idea is that you really excel in this AP exam, which has some tricky questions. Some of them are just paying close attention to the code. Okay, so any questions, you can leave me a comment, or you can go to our help desk. Okay.